We're gonna get this party started. We're gonna get this party started. We're gonna get this party started. It's a Bible reading party. We're gonna get this party started. We're gonna get this party started. We're gonna get this party started. It's a Bible reading party. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Gonna get this party started. The time is now 7:09 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's Texas time, y'all. And it is Sunday morning here in Texas. It is August 2nd, 2020. It is week 31 of reading the Bible every day. Good morning, Eva Frazier, early bird in the room. Excuse me being out of breath, but I was already late, and then I had to make a mad dash to get a cold bottle of water from the refrigerator because I noticed yesterday when I was drinking my La Croix, I was burping a little bit, so I had to save the sparkling water for after the reading, but I went to get some fresh, clear water for the reading, so pardon. I request a pardon. Thumbs up, yes, bless the like button. I'm good. Today is Sunday. It is week 31. It's the last day of the week. It's the last day of week 31. We read the book of Esther yesterday. We cracked it open, read 1, 2, and 3. If you guys got a chance to watch the movie that I told you about, let me know in the comments. I did drop a link. I told you there is a 2-hour dramatization of the book of Esther that I watched a couple of weeks ago. It is really good. So as I'm reading the word that goes with that script, you can probably better understand it just that much more if you get a chance to watch the movie. If I get a chance sometime during this reading, I will open up another tab, borrow that link so that I can drop it, and then that way you guys can watch it too. It's a really good movie. Even if you're not into Bible movies, it's a really good dramatization of what it must have been like for Esther to get snatched up from her home, everything that she knew, hide the fact that she's a Jew, hide the fact that she's not able to pray and worship like she was able to, and somehow make her faith work in her favor and for the favor of all the Jews, in spite of being taken in as a concubine / princess / she ended up being queen. So anyways, we are in the book of Esther. That's what's going on. I hope you got a chance to watch that movie. If not, I will be putting the link back in today. Oh, I'm holding it. Let me talk about it. This is my Bible. It is the New Believer's Bible Compact Version. First Steps for New Christians. I recommend this because it is a very easy read. It's a very easy read. It reads in a very easy to understand way. This is my Bible dictionary. I use it to not only pronounce different people's names properly, but to get a little background on who they are, the settings, maybe the political climate and things that were going on. I mentioned this the other day. I don't ever read from it, but when I say easy to read book, I know some people are intimidated to read the Bible. It seems old-fashioned. It seems like too much. There are all kinds of different Bibles that are easy to read, such as this one. This is an easy to read version. And all this Bible is the New Testament and the book of Proverbs. So it's a portion of the Bible. And my personal opinion, it's better to read a portion of the Bible than none of the Bible, because that portion just might open your eyes up to some other things. And of course, this is my classic King James Version, which I really don't read, but this is the Bible that most people are afraid to read because maybe they're not a very strong reader. Classic King, come on, Classic King. Maybe they're not a very strong reader, or maybe, I know, we gotta block that out. Maybe they're not a very strong reader, or maybe they're just, I don't know. But some people only feel comfortable reading the classic King James. So anyways, there are many translations and versions to choose from. And somewhere during this Bible reading, usually at the end, I always encourage people to read the Bible in their own time so they can come to their own understanding to help you live. This world is messed up. This world is crooked. This world is wicked. This world's got some stuff. What is going on? What is going on? We don't know what's going on, but this has always stood true time and time again. There's got prophecies in here of some of the very things that's happening right now. There have been prophecies that have been told throughout the ages that was already predicted in this book, and it's a good historical reference. This is a history book. If nothing else, that is a history book. All right, now that I'm done with my little spiel, let's do a quick screen share to see my Bible study guide. I think I know what I did wrong. I think that was my fault. You guys probably did not see any part at all of my book, right? Let me know where did I leave off? There's two special buttons I'm supposed to press together, Control and Z, and that will help me share my screen with you. I think I hit Control X, and I think that's when it stopped streaming. Let me know if that's right. I think because I hit them both at the same time, and then I said, oh, let me share my screen. I think that's what I did wrong. I think I stopped the stream myself. Let me go back, because I don't think you guys saw any of what I was talking about. Control Z. There we go. This is what I was sharing a second ago before I cut off my own stream and stopped streaming for you guys. For the people who have never been here before, I was sharing the cover of my book, which is this book here, A Woman's Guide to Reading the Bible in a Year, a life-changing journey into the heart of God. This is a Kindle download. You can also get a printed version. We're in week 31. Week 31 is called For Such a Time as This. Each week has its own theme. I was just reading through this as a summary. I did read through it at the start of this week, but since I lost quite a bit of time there buffering, I'm not going to read it again, but this is what I was going through. We are in week 31, For Such a Time as This. And in the gold box that I'm going to show in just a second, it shows what I've been reading. Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. And these are the checkpoints that have already been covered. A letter from the king, a nighttime scouting mission, beard hairs, a dethroned queen, and all of this we've covered. A letter from the king happened in Ezra, the scouting mission and somebody pulling out their beard hairs, that happened in Nehemiah. A dethroned queen, that was talking about Queen Vashti. That happened in yesterday in Esther 1. And I was saying, when I didn't realize that my stream had been cut off, I was saying, if you want to know a little bit more about this dethroned queen, check out the link for the movie that I gave you guys. That is a YouTube link of an upload from a movie called One Night with the King. And it's talking about Esther, the book of Esther, which we're in, and you'll get to see you'll get to see a version of Queen Vashti, the person who was dethroned yesterday, and you'll get to see a reason why she probably went against her husband. It does not say it in the Bible. That's why I say it's a dramatization. They don't give the details. They just say he called for her to come into the banquet. She didn't, and he deposed her and looked for another queen. So today we're reading Esther 4 through 6. A golden scepter is probably going to be covered today. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you guys is the website that goes with this channel here. As I'm reading through the Bible in a year, the Bible in 1 year is the website I put together. Check through it. There are resources. There are places to get your own Bible or to donate a Bible. There are places, there are children's Bibles and specialty Bibles. And if you have any questions or concerns or something that you think I need to add to this channel, or excuse me, to this website, there is an email form on the home page. And through that email, you can let me know, hey, this is what I think about the website. Maybe if you change this, maybe if you add this, maybe if you take this away. There's even a source on here where there are Bibles the Bible is the most published book ever. top-selling book ever. There are Bibles in all types of languages. If you know someone who needs a Bible in a specific language, check out this link right here. This language, this organization is called Ethnic Harvest. I think I uploaded this part last week. I don't think I've talked about it yet before, but there are Bibles in all languages and almost every language in the world. And if you know somebody who's needing a Bible that maybe would like to read it in their own native language, check out this link and see if it has the Bible for them. There are Bibles in Braille for the blind. There are even specialty Bibles for people with dyslexia who may be discouraged from reading because they already have a hard time reading. And yes, that's what I've got on this page so far. Like I said before, if you see something that should be on this page, on this website, that's not, you can leave me a comment here at YouTube at Boulevard 40, or you can go to the home page and right here where it says questions, you can send me an email right here on this, on the bottom of the home page. Okay, hopefully you guys were able to get that, right? Hopefully you guys were able to see all of that. Yeah, I could. Yay, no buffering. You're fine now. Yeah, I accidentally hit a button without realizing it. It's funny because the share a screen button is right next to the stop streaming button, and I hit it by mistake. Delicious, delicious. Right from the refrigerator, nice and cold and frigid. If you say it slowly enough, it makes sense why Frigidaire calls their brand Frigidaire. Frigidaire, you know, the refrigerator. Frigid air. Frigid air. Frigidaire. Get it? Get it? Frigidaire. I thought I realized that a couple weeks ago. I was like, the Frigidaire. Wonder what made them come up with that name. Frigidaire. Frigid air. Frigid air. Perfect name because frigid means cold. Anyways, in the book of Esther, it says that I should be reading 1 through 3. I should actually be reading 4 through 6. It is a very short read, so let me change that right now. And if you did get a chance to watch that movie, let me know what you thought about it. Before I forget, I'm going to look it up really quick so I can drop the link in case you missed it yesterday. One Night, that's what it's called, One Night with the King. And the channel that uploaded it is called Let's Talk About It TV. Let me make sure that I pause it. Copy that really quick. Close it really quick. And bring it back here to you guys. One Night with the King. This is the URL. So if you missed it yesterday, if you want to watch something really good after this Bible reading, that is the link to the movie that I was talking about yesterday in the book of Esther. This is what happened yesterday in Esther. Chapter 1, we talked about the king's banquet. And in the king's banquet, Queen Vashti is deposed. She is kicked out. She is uncrowned. That's what happened in chapter 1. Chapter 2, Esther becomes queen. And actually, there was like a multi-level of that. A lot of the young girls, like young maiden, probably 14, 15, 16 and up, they were all rounded up and brought into the kingdom. It does not say against their will, but if you watch the movie, you'll see how it happened, how it probably happened. All the young girls are rounded up because they're considered of eligible age, and they're given a year's worth of beauty treatments. And those beauty treatments were 6 months of oil and myrrh, and 6 months with special perfumes and ointments. And of course, they're being kind of treated nicely and taught how to approach the king, what not to do, what what their place is, what the proper protocol is. There is a eunuch who was in charge of all of these girls. Well, there was a top eunuch and there were other eunuchs. And in the movie, you'll get to see how some of these eunuchs were actually recruited. So just like they recruited all these young girls to be possible queens, they recruited all these young boys against their will and they castrated them so that they could protect the women folk within the kingdom without being considered a threat. So we want the muscle and we want the brawn of the men, but we don't want any hanky panky. So get all these young boys, castrate them, train them how to be protectors of these young girls, and yeah, that's how that went down. So I I highly recommend that movie. It's kind of sad, but it's kind of like wow, it will really bring the book of Esther to life. So that's what happened. It says Esther became queen, but there was a lot more to it. Mordecai's loyalty to the king. Mordecai is he's old enough to be her uncle, like great uncle, but they're actually cousins. And then in chapter 3, Haman plots against the Jews. Haman is somebody who works up under the king, and he actually is able to get the he's buttering up the king, like, yeah, these Jews, da 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 da. And this one guy, he don't even want to bow down to me, da 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 da. These Jews, they separate themselves from us and they live a different kind of way. You probably don't want those kind of people as your royal subjects. Why don't you kill all the Jews? And the king, he's like, I guess, sure. And he takes off his royal ring. He gives it to Haman. He's like, do whatever you feel like is best. And then they cast lots. Like, imagine taking some dice. Okay. And the dice isn't whether or not they're going to die. It's like, what day are they going to die? Yeah. And the dice or the lots are called Purim, casting lots. That's what was going on yesterday, basically deciding when, not if, but when are these Jews going to die? And that was the cliffhanger that I left you off on. That's what happened in chapters 1, 2, and 3. Morning to everyone. Okay, you guys ready for chapter 4? I'm sorry if my face is dry. I just got out of the shower and I feel like my lips are just like powdered donuts right now, which sound really delicious right now. Don't look at my lips, just read my lips. Mordecai requests Esther's help. Now remember, they're related, right? Mordecai actually raised this young girl up because she was kind of an orphan. It's his little cousin. He took her into his home to raise her like she was his own daughter. So he already had a place in the kingdom. What was he? He wasn't a scribe. Mordecai wasn't a scribe. He was kind of like, let's see. Mordecai. At that time, there was a Jewish man. I'm reading in chapter 2, verse 5. At that time, there was a Jewish man in the fortress of Susa, whose name was Mordecai, son of Jair. He was from the tribe of Benjamin, and he was a descendant of Kish and Shimei. His family had been among those who had been exiled. Let's see, he had a lovely young cousin. He adopted her into his family. He directed her not to reveal her Jewish nationality, her ethnicity. Esther. I don't remember where I first read about Mordecai, but Mordecai was already established in the kingdom. Verse 21, one day as Mordecai was on duty at the king's gate, so maybe he was one of the gatekeepers. We'll just say for now, unless you already know, I'll just say for now, Mordecai was already in the kingdom. He was one of the gatekeepers because in verse 21 in chapter 2, it says, one day as Mordecai was on duty at the king's gate, two of the king's eunuchs, Bigthana and Teresh, who were guards at the door of the king's private quarters, became angry at King Xerxes and plotted to assassinate him. And that was something that he actually saved the king from. Now we're going to dive into chapter 4. When Mordecai learned about all that had been done, talking about this plan to kill all the Jews, once he learned all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on a burlap and ashes, and he went out into the city crying with a loud and bitter wail. He went as far as the gate of the palace, for no one was allowed to enter the palace gate while wearing clothes of mourning. And as news of the king's decree reached all the provinces, there was great mourning among the Jews. They fasted, wept, and wailed, and many people lay in burlap and ashes. When Queen Esther's maids and eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai, she was deeply distressed. She sent clothing to him to replace the burlap, but he refused it. Then Esther sent for Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs who had been appointed as her attendant. She ordered him to go to Mordecai and find out what was troubling him and why he was in mourning. So Hathach went out to Mordecai in the square in front of the palace gate. Mordecai told him the whole story, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai gave Hathach a copy of the decree issued in Susa that called for the death of all Jews. He asked Hathach to show it to Esther and explain the situation to her. He also asked Hathach to direct her to go to the king to beg for mercy and plead for her people. So Hathach returned to Esther with Mordecai's message. So, hopefully you're caught up with everything. Esther, who was also called Hadassah, that's her original Jewish name, she was raised up by her uncle. I say uncle, but it's really her cousin. She was raised up by her cousin Mordecai. They're both Jews. Now, it's not that Jews are not able to work in the kingdom, but it's only when this Haman guy gets pissed off. And he's like, man, we're going to get rid of all these Jews. They're nothing but trouble anyways. The king does not realize he has married a Jew. So even though it seems like the Jews are able to work around and somewhat underneath in the kingdom, it doesn't seem like they have a really popular, they're not real popular with people. Because I'm thinking, why would she need to hide her ethnicity? Why would she need to hide the fact that she's a Jew? But now that she is a queen, she does maybe have some pull. And that is what Mordecai is hoping that she is able to do. He's asking her to go to the king and beg for the life of the Jews. Verse 10 in chapter 4 says, Then Esther told Hathach to go back and relay this message to Mordecai. All the king's officials and even the people in the provinces know that anyone who appears before the king in his inner court without being invited is doomed to die unless the king holds out his gold scepter. So let me explain that part. Unless the king requests your presence in the inner court, not in the kingdom, but like, his inner court, where it's just him, it's like a private room. Unless he invites you to come in there, you can't come in there. Even if you are the queen, you have to be invited in there. The king himself has to say you can go in here. So she can't just go in there and say, hey, king, I heard you want to kill all the Jews. Let's not do that, okay, babe? She can't do that. And then if you watch the movie, because the movie I think has a lot more historical things into it that will explain, well, she's the queen, they sleep together, they eat together, da, 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 da. No, they don't. In this particular day and time, they didn't do things the way we do things nowadays. So there was still some separation of power. There was still some separation of, I'm the king, I just happen to pick you as queen, go sit over there until I need you kind of situation, Pardon me. So it's a big deal for her to even try to do this. But that is what Mordecai is telling her to do. Esther sends the message back. Anyone who appears before the king in his inner court without being invited is doomed to die unless the king holds out his golden scepter. And the king has not called for me to come to him for 30 days. So Hathach gave Esther's message to Mordecai. You see that? Even the queen has to be called to the king. Mordecai sent this reply to Esther. Don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace you will escape when all other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place. But you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for such a time as this? And I hope you're paying attention to what's happening now. She is the only Jew that at this particular time is under some kind of protection. She is the queen. She has kept her ethnicity to herself. She has kept it all secret. She is somewhat protected. But Mordecai is telling her, this is not the time for you to be quiet. You have the power to save us all. And even if you save yourself today, at some point it's going to come out and it's going to come to haunt you. Verse 15 says, Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai: Go and gather together all the Jews of Susa and fast for me. And she did it that way because, remember, she can't do anything. She can't worship like a Jew. She can't eat like a Jew. All the things that she was brought up to do, she's not allowed to practice because she's hiding who she is. So pork, not, the Sabbath, everything that she was really not allowed, everything that she had been brought up to do, she can't do because she's queen. She's hiding that part. So she can't even fast, or else the king would be like, well, why aren't you eating? What's going on? So Esther is telling Mordecai, tell all the Jews to fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will do the same, and then, though it is against the law, I will go in to see the king. If I must die, I must die. So Mordecai went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. Destiny Forever walks in the house. You have to be invited, have an invitation. Wow, yes. Maybe not nowadays in today's royalty, but at this particular time, the king had absolute rule. It was not king and queen sitting on the throne together. It was, I'm the king, and if you get picked to be queen, well, good for you, but you sit there and you don't say anything until I say something to you, and you don't approach me until I request you. Watch the movie. I got the link up there. Okay, we got hello to the Wiz, hello to Eva Frazier, and then the Wiz says hello back. I missed you. Yes. Well, Destiny Forever Walk, she has her own channel to maintain, so she is busy in her own right. But anytime that you come in, I do appreciate you, and it brings a smile to my face. So welcome, welcome. We are in the book of Esther. Yesterday I read 1 through 3. Today I'm reading 4 through 6. There's a link in the chat. There's a link up there. It says One Night with the King, and it's a dramatization. It's a movie of the Book of Esther. I think it is superb. It's a 2-hour movie, and as I'm reading through this, if you're not the one who's reading through it, sometimes it can be kind of hard to understand. But if you watch the movie, it's like, oh, okay, because there are historians and theologians who knew what was going on at this time and place. There was certain protocol, there was certain etiquette, there were certain things that could and could not be done. And once you watch the movie, it will make sense. Like, what do you mean the king hasn't called for you in 30 days? And, what do you mean you can't approach him until he, until he invites you? So it will all make sense if you check out the movie. I'm glad you mentioned it again. I will watch it. Good, good, good. It will stay in there. And it's also in the description. So if you don't want to watch this over again and search for it in the chat, I believe it's in the description. Let me check really quick. Every day when I shut down the live stream, I go into the description and I add details. So I put a summary of what I read in the description. So like yesterday, it says today's summary: King Xerxes of Persia is ruling. Queen Vashti is deposed to the throne. Hadassah, the young cousin of Mordecai, is taken, along with all the young maidens of the town, to be groomed and selected as a replacement as queen. An edict from Haman is given out to kill all the Jews because Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman. Check out this dramatized version of the story upload by this creator. Let's Talk About TV. That's the content creator that uploaded it, and there's the link. So today I'm going to change the summary because it's going to be a new summary, but the link will still be there. So just come back to the book of Esther on this channel. Come to Esther 1 through 3 or Esther 4 through 6, and the link will be on both of those in the description. You don't have to watch the replay over again. Just go to the description box, open it up, and you'll see all this stuff there. I just want to check. It is already in there. I looked for you yesterday, but I never saw you come on. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. I'm here every day, every day. I might be late some days, like within 30 minutes, but I'm always here. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, you're not the first person who has told me that. Yeah. So anyhow, we are in, that was the end of chapter 4, I believe. It's a lot of drama in this book. Don't think for a moment, this is Mordecai talking to his little cousin. Don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace, you will escape when all the other Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will rise from some other place. But you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen for such a time as this. That's the name of this week's theme. For such a time as this. That's the name of this theme. For such a time as this. You yourself, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you're going through, your life has been culminated, put together for such a time as, I don't know, for such a time as now, for such a time as in the future, or for a particular time that has already passed. But yes, we all have a role. We all got something that we were made just for that moment. And this is Esther's moment. Esther sent this reply to Mordecai, go and gather together all the Jews. Fast for me, don't eat or drink for 3 days or nights. My maids and I will do the same. And even though it is against the law, I will go and see the king. If I must die, I must die. And so Mordecai went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. That was chapter 4. That was chapter 4. Okay, we got communication in the live stream. While you guys are talking to each other, I'm going to pick it up in chapter 5. This is Esther's request to the king. On the 3rd day of the fast, Esther put on her royal robes and entered the inner court of the palace just across from the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne, facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing there in the inner court, he welcomed her and held out the golden scepter to her. See that? That's the checkpoint, that golden scepter. You know, that long, kind of looks like a walking cane, but it's not. It's like the... I am the king, this is my golden scepter. So he saw her in the distance. Come on. Yeah, you can come in. He held out his golden scepter to her. So Esther approached and touched the end of the scepter. Then the king asked her, what do you want, Queen Esther? What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half the kingdom. And Esther replied, if it please the king, let the king and Haman come today to a banquet I have prepared for the king. The king turned to his attendants and said, tell Haman to come quickly to a banquet, as Esther has requested. So the king and Haman went to Esther's banquet. Now Haman, like I was reading, Haman is the person that has been going out, kind of like a governor type of person, and when he goes out, he wants everybody to bow down to him. Mordecai didn't want to bow down to him. Mordecai the Jew did not want to bow down, and because of this interaction with these two people, that's where this edict came out. We're going to kill all the Jews. Who does this Mordecai think he is? You know, and so now between Haman, who is the king's right-hand man, Haman, who kind of got dissed by Mordecai by not being bowed down. We got Mordecai, who serves the king, is one of the gatekeepers, and we got Mordecai, who is Esther's cousin, and then we have Esther, who is the queen, the king's queen. So you see how that's playing out, how these people are related to each other. And so now the king and Esther and Haman are going to have a nice little sit down, a nice little chit chat at a banquet. Basically inviting him over for dinner. Let's see. And this is chapter 5, picking it up in verse 5 again. The king turned to his attendants and said, tell Haman to come quickly to a banquet as Esther has requested. So the king and Haman went to Esther's banquet, and while they were drinking wine, the king said to Esther, now tell me what you really want. What is your request? I will give it to you, even if it is half the kingdom. He loved this girl. Esther replied, this is my request and deepest wish. If I have found favor with the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my request and do what I ask, please come with Haman tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for you. Then I will explain what this is all about. Verse 9, Haman's plan to kill Mordecai. Haman was a happy man as he left the banquet. But when he saw Mordecai sitting at the palace gate, not standing up or trembling nervously before him, Haman became furious. However, he restrained himself and went on home. Then Haman gathered together his friends and Zeresh, his wife, and boasted to them about his great wealth and his many children. He bragged about the honors the king had given him and how he had been promoted over all the other nobles and officials. Then Haman added, And that's not all. Queen Esther invited me, only me, and the king himself to the banquet she prepared for us. And she has invited me to dine with her and the king again tomorrow. Then he added, but this is all worth nothing as long as I see Mordecai the Jew just sitting there at the palace gate. So Haman's wife, Zeresh, and all his friends suggested, set up a sharpened pole that stands 70 feet tall, and in the morning ask the king to impale Mordecai on it. When this is done, you can go on your merry way to the banquet with the king. This pleased Haman, and he ordered the pole to be set up. Chapter 6. The king honors Mordecai. So we see all this back and forth drama. It's about to go down. Wait a minute. Let's take a break. Oh, what's going to happen? So in chapter 6, the king actually honors Mordecai. That night, the king had trouble sleeping, so he ordered an attendant to bring the book of the history of his reign so it could be read to him. In those records, he discovered an account of how Mordecai had exposed the plot of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the eunuchs who guarded the door to the king's private quarters. They had plotted to assassinate King Xerxes. So his bedtime reading was literally the notes, all those memorandums, the history of everything that has happened since he's been king. And he's rereading the time when his life was spared because of the do-good nature of Mordecai. What reward of recognition did we ever give Mordecai for this? The king asked. His attendants replied, nothing has been done for him. Who is that in the outer court? The king inquired. As it happened, Haman had just arrived in the outer court of the palace to ask the king to impale Mordecai on the pole he had prepared. So the attendants replied to the king, Haman is in the outer court. Bring him in, the king ordered. So Haman came in, and the king said, what shall I do to honor a man who truly pleases me? Haman thought to himself, whom would the king wish to honor more than me? So he replied, if the king wishes to honor someone, he should bring out one of the king's own royal robes, as well as a horse that the king himself has ridden, one with a royal emblem on its head. Let the robes and the horses be handed over to one of the king's most noble officials, and let him see that the man whom the king wishes to honor is dressed in the king's royal robes and led through the city square on the king's horse. Have the officials shout as they go, this is what the king does for someone he wishes to honor. Excellent, the king said to Haman. Quick, take the robes and my horse and do just as you have said for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the gate of the palace. Leave out nothing you have suggested. So Haman, good old Haman, he had that pole ready to impale Mordecai. But instead, what hell hath for evil, God turned it around for somebody's good. Haman came in to set up Mordecai so bad, and he ended up walking out getting ready to honor Mordecai. And this is verse 11. So Haman took the robes and put them on Mordecai, placed him on the king's own horse, and led him through the city square, shouting, this is what the king does for someone he wishes to honor. Afterward, Mordecai returned to the palace gate, but Haman hurried home, dejected and completely humiliated. When Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends what had happened, his wise advisors and his wife said, since Mordecai, this man who is humiliated, is of Jewish birth, you will never succeed in your plans against him. It will be fatal if you continue opposing him. While they were still talking, the king's eunuchs arrived and quickly took Haman to the banquet Esther had prepared. That's it for today's reading. I want to read the rest so badly because there's like 3 chapters left, but I have to stay on schedule. I have to stay on schedule because, yes, this is only 4, 5, and 6. But the plot thickens, y'all. The plot thickens. Let's see. Yeah. Esther 7, 8, 9, and 10 will be tomorrow. That's it. So now we see what's going on. We got King Xerxes. We got Queen Esther, also known as Hadassah. We've got Mordecai the Jew, which Esther's also a Jew. We've got Haman, and these different people are very much interlinked with each other. And there's power struggles and power plays and deception and good deeds and people put in a position of power that can do some really wonderful things, but it can kind of like be a threat to them. And yes, that's what's going on in chapters 4, 5, and 6. On that note, I don't think I've cracked open my Bible dictionary in a while. We're right at the 45-minute mark. I kind of like it when these are short and sweet. I think it makes them more likely to be replayed when people come through and they're like, "Oh, this one's only 45 minutes. I'll play it." I don't really like to add too much to it unless I think it will give some value. But I want to just see if I can find something on Haman or Mordecai really quick. I do see Haman, and I'm going to see if I can find something on Mordecai really quick. Because these two people, one, they're both appointed people. Neither one of these people really, um, like the king has appointed both of these people. They're appointed. They were chosen. That's what I'm trying to say. And they can both be promoted or demoted depending on how they interact with the king. Same thing can go with Esther, really, because Queen Vashti was demoted. She was, cast away from the king's sight because she refused. Just like I said, the king, don't approach the king unless he calls you. And also, if he calls you, you better come. When he says hop, you better say how high. You do not refuse an invitation from the king. And that's exactly what Queen Vashti did. Let's see. Cliffhanger. Yeah, another cliffhanger. I'm ready to read it, but if you read, now movies, they have a little artistic license. Some of what happens in the movie is slightly different, but it will still give you a historical reference of why some of the things might have happened. Come on. Where's Mordecai? Okay, here's Mordecai and here's Haman. So let's see what's going on with Haman. And it's Haman. See, that's why I need to be reading this dictionary. His name is Haman. I've been calling him Haman, but it's Haman. Haman, the evil and scheming prime minister of Ahasuerus, also known as Xerxes the First. He's the king of Persia. When Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman, Haman plotted to destroy Mordecai and his family, as well as all the Jews in the Persian Empire. But Esther intervened and saved her people. Haman was hanged on the very gallows he had constructed for Mordecai. So even though I left you on a cliffhanger, that's a little spoiler right there. This shows that God is always in control of events, even when wickedness and evil seem to be winning out. And that's all there is on Haman. Let's read about Mordecai real quick, and I'm going to wrap this up. Mordecai, related to Marduk. Mordecai. It doesn't really give a meaning, but that's how you say it, Mordecai. The hero of the book of Esther. Mordecai was probably born in Babylonia during the years of captivity of the Jewish people by this pagan nation. He was a resident of Susa, the Persian capital during the reign of Xerxes I, who was the king of Persia. When Mordecai's uncle Abihail died, Mordecai took his orphan cousin Hadassah into his home as her adoptive father. When two of the king's eunuchs, Bigthan and Teresh, conspired to assassinate King Xerxes, Mordecai uncovered the plot and exposed it, saving the king's life. He never got credit for it in the beginning, but that's how he ended up getting honored just now. Mordecai showed his loyalty to God by refusing to bow down to Haman, the official second to the king. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, when the Persians bowed before their king, they were paying homage to him as a god, and Mordecai, a Jew, would not condone to such idolatry. So you get what's going on there, right? We bow, maybe nowadays, bow or shake hands, or some people do not do the Pledge of Allegiance because they feel like I'm not pledging allegiance to a flag because I've already pledged my allegiance to God. It's kind of the same thing that's going on here. When you are bowing down to the king in this day and time, especially in Persia, you're acknowledging that king as a god or a demigod. And so Mordecai, he was a very faithful Jew. That's why he wasn't bowing down to Haman or Haman, the king. And you're probably wondering, well, everybody else was bound down. There's different cultures and different ethnicities around, not just Jews and Persians. There's all kind of peoples. So they probably didn't have a problem with it, or maybe they just didn't have as strong as faith. Haman's hatred for Mordecai sparked his plan to kill all the Jews in the Persian Empire. And we read about that in Esther 3 and 6. Mordecai reminded his cousin, his little cousin, who had become Queen Esther, of her God given opportunity to expose Haman to the king and save her people. The plot turned against Haman, who ironically was impaled on the same stake that he had prepared for Mordecai. Haman was succeeded by Mordecai. He took his place. Haman was succeeded by Mordecai, who now was second in command to the most powerful man in the kingdom. He used his new position to encourage his people to defend themselves against the scheduled massacre planned by Haman. Persian officials also assisted in protecting the Jews in events celebrated by the annual feast of Purim. So that same name that was used to cast out, like, which day are we going to kill these Jews? It was called Purim. They took the dice or the stones or whatever. Oh, let's do it next Tuesday. Purim, that was the name of that. And they took that and they put it on a feast, a celebration. Because on this day, we should have been massacred, but we survived. We were saved by God. That's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Have a happy day. It is now 8 o'clock. It's a perfect time to wrap this up because it's 8. And 8 is great. It is my continued prayer that all who hear this Bible reading really pay attention, really get something out of it, and are encouraged to read the Bible on their own so they can come to their own understanding and build up their own faith and their own relationship with God and learn something new and find some purpose and live their best life. That is my prayer, Lord. Amen. Have a great Sunday. I will see you guys week 32, which is tomorrow. And yes, happy weekend and happy reading.